right out. But I have to come in and introduce myself and say a few words about the hospital. So Supervisors, thank you for the invitation, staff, community. A few words about me. I've been in the business now for almost long enough to retire, but not quite. Been going on 40 years. Started my career in public health back in the early 1980s. Spent some time working for Riverside County, then San Joaquin County, and then Indian Health Services in Southern California. From there, I took a trip over to the payer side, worked for what is now Anthem Blue Cross, and then spent the last 20 years working for Dignity Health, who used to be Catholic Healthcare West. And then back in December, made the jump here to Adventist Health Rideout, and I'm very, very excited to be here. My wife, Kim, who couldn't be here this afternoon, and I just purchased a house here in Yuba City. I was actually talking to the Yuba County Supervisors this morning, and they suggested that maybe I had bought in the wrong city. They were giving incentives to move over. But we're really excited to be here, learning the community. We've found Target, we've found Walmart, and some grocery stores, so we're in. The hospital, we've got great things coming this year. Again, I'm really excited about it. Before I talk about where we're going to go, I just want to give a public thank you to the staff. The team has been doing an absolutely amazing job for the past several weeks. This last spike of COVID has really hit us hard. We typically, in our emergency department, see about 180 patients a day. A week ago, 2 weeks ago, we were seeing 320 patients a day with the same number of staff. And this is the bragging point, I just have to give it to the team. The time that from the time the person walks through the door to the time that they're seen by a provider was 10 minutes. Given that volume, that's truly amazing. So thank you to the team at Rideout, the clinicians and the staff are just doing a great job. So 4 areas of focus for this coming year. We could probably try to boil the ocean, but we probably wouldn't get much done. So our first goal for the year is quality. Make sure that we are delivering the highest quality product of any healthcare system anywhere in the United States. I'm proud to say that we're making good progress on that already. Cindy Gordon, our chief nursing executive, and her team have put into place different practices, and this last month we led the Adventist health system in certain measures of quality. So again, the quality is really taking off. Second thing that we're going to focus on is patient experience. I call it the mother test. If you want to come in, bring your mom in, and you feel like you got good service, then we're doing a good job. So myself and the executive team and the other leaders in the hospital are rounding on a daily basis. We're rounding on our employees. We're rounding on our patients. If you are a patient at our hospital, I come see you. I'd love to chat with you, just seeing how things are going. So real focus on that. Third item is length of stay. We are struggling with our length of stay, and that's primarily because patients who would normally be discharged from the hospital into skilled nursing facilities and subacute units, there's no place for them to go. All the facilities are full. So we are looking for community partnerships with organizations that we can use to offload, I shouldn't say offload, but to discharge patients to. And the last thing that we're going to focus on this year is growth. One of the things that we've really noticed is that there is a significant lack of primary care in the market. And I keep joking with the staff, although it's not really a joke. My goal is to have a primary care office everywhere there's a Starbucks or a McDonald's, right? High visibility, high traffic. These primary care offices will run for extended hours, or maybe 7 o'clock in the mornings when you're taking the kids to school or going to work. You can get in there before work, extended hours into the evening, 6, 7, 8 p.m. in the evening, and on weekends. The goal is to really create a robust network of primary care that serves the community. So that's our 4 main focuses. We're calling it our Focus 4 for the year. And I'd love to work with you all in getting those accomplished. Be happy to take any questions or comments.
Through the chair. Let's go ahead. Supervisor Chris, thanks for coming to us in Sutter County. Welcome, and I have great hopes for the hospital. I think you guys are doing a great job over there. I want to say one thing. I think you guys are, with high patient load, one thing I didn't mention was I know that a couple weeks ago you were down 110 staff per day, right?
Yes.
And still doing that huge patient load. I don't know how you guys do it.
I've told people this before. I like to be there at shift change, 7 in the morning, 7 in the afternoon, just to talk to the staff as they're coming off shift. And the only description I can give you is like watching soldiers come off the battlefield. I mean, they're worn, they're exhausted, but they've done their job, and it's just, I can't say enough. I've run out of superlatives to describe the work that they're doing. So yeah, we were down 100 nurses. We've got 60 or 70 or 80 out on leaves. It's tough, but they're really troopers.
Hopefully we're turning over. It looks better now, right? A little?
Well, the COVID census is down. We're down to about 60 in-house today versus over 100. Actually, this was the largest spike that we've had in all the COVID waves so far. As far as staff being out, we're still struggling with that, but we've got a lot of focus on getting nurses to come on full-time. So by the way, if you know nurses, please recruit for us. I'll give you my business card. We'll work something out, but we need nurses. We need professionals. And we need places for them to live, too, once they get here. So housing is a big issue for us.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Anything else from the board? So I just want to, again, welcome you to Yuba City for you and your wife, and thank you for purchasing in Sutter County.
Yeah.
And so 950 THARP, when does that open? Or
it's actually in the process of being opened right now. We're starting to move stuff over a couple of days ago. So we're going to have a ribbon cutting soon. We'll get invitations out, but it's soon.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for the presentation.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay. At this point, we're here at the public comment. Members of the public will be allowed to address the board on items of interest to the public that are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Board of Supervisors. State law provides that no discussions or action may be taken on any items not appearing on the posted agenda. We have some public comment cards, and I will start off with Diane Jager.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. I just have a request for some follow-up on some items that have been previously discussed. And so for future down the road or next meeting, I'd like to just have an update on a few things. First about as far as the 5G and the assistance with the 5G specialist, what's going on there. Also, update on the roundabout proposed on 99, because haven't heard anything on that, and update on the dispensary issue. So haven't heard anything on those three issues. That's all that I have for those. Thank you.
What was the final issue? Okay. So the board has never had a discussion on dispensaries?
We can't make comment on it, it's a public comment. So. Jane and Stan Anderson.
Thank you. We just have a quick question. Does the Sutter County Board here have an ordinance or any rules against abandoned homes within the county? We live out on Franklin Road, and there's been a home that's been abandoned. We've lived there for 40 years, and neighbors over on the street over from us tell us that that was abandoned before we moved there 40 years ago. And we're just curious if there's any ordinance or rules against an abandoned home. And Carm, you know which one I'm talking about.
Thank you. So we'll have to direct staff to please reach out to them to on that ordinance.
Yeah, sure. Sorry to the chair.
Let's go ahead.
If
I
there
can ask
isn't-
code enforcement to have a look at the property. Is there an address?
No. It's at the corner of Hembry and Franklin Road. You can't miss it. And if there isn't an ordinance, then possibly the board could create one, because I'm sure there possibly, I don't know for sure, but there must be somewhere else in the county that there are abandoned homes. So, thank you.
Thank you. So we have your email here. We'll have somebody reach out to you. Huh? Thank you for your comment or question, sorry. Okay, Courtney Ortega with Glad Tidings Church.
Thank you. Good afternoon. So today I'm requesting that you receive this resolution and schedule it to pass for a future meeting. This resolution addresses moral and ethical dilemmas which may occur while serving as a county supervisor or as county staff. It also reflects on the purpose of a county supervisor, which is to represent its local district in legislative decisions and to make the best decisions placed in front of them with their community members in mind. Your job is not a game of Monopoly or Risk. It's a very serious job and created for serious responsibility of the public. The Sutter County goals and top priorities are to provide local leadership which is open, responsive, ethical, inclusive, and transparent. Is Sutter County checking the ethical box? I recently wrote an article about Dan Flores wrongfully pursuing a job as Economic Development Director at Marysville. And there was a critique of this article which brought up, why is it a problem for an elected official to have a job in government? And I agree with that. Generally, there isn't a problem. For example, a school teacher. However, positions which relate to economics do conflict between agencies because there is a matter of competition and loyalty. For example, let's say there's a deal to get a Costco, let's say maybe in Yuba City. And the local economic supervisor has ties to the contact who's going to bring the Costco in. Then suddenly that same economic director gets a different job at a competing agency, let's say Marysville. And then Yuba City suddenly loses the deal, which instead goes now to Marysville. Now Marysville gets the excess sales tax revenue, which would have helped this community out. So you see, we aren't talking about a school teacher. We're talking about a person in a position to either make or lose an agency millions of dollars. Operating both positions simultaneously is a conflict of interest for both agencies, and it should have been addressed upon the hiring at Marysville. However, it is now your responsibility to be accountable to either Sutter or Marysville. By you not addressing the clear conflict, you betray the trust of your community. We have no idea if many other issues which may come up are self-dealing or if they are just coincidences. We also don't know if the position that was created in November for an economic development manager here at Sutter County is self-dealing, and we don't know if your wife running for tax collector is self-dealing for your own real estate brokerage firm. The possibilities are endless, And without county officials who prove themselves as ethical leaders to the public,
Thank you.
we'll never
Thank
be
you for your comments.
satisfied.
So we can move on. We have Sandy Drone, please.
I do need a stool, please. All right. Thank you, Chairman or Vice Chair Baines and Sutter County Supervisors for having me today. I just wanted to take a few minutes. My name is Sandy Drown, and my husband and I own the Happy Viking in beautiful Yuba City, downtown Yuba City in District 2, which is the heart of Sutter County. Just a little plug. Got you guys. I just wanted to congratulate Dan Flores on his new position over in Yuba County. And I've known you for 14 years. We've worked together on business, nonprofits, and commercial avenues. And I'm really excited about your expertise I know also I serve on the Yuba-Sutter Restaurant Association and also with the Downtown Business Association. And so I know that bridging the gap between Yuba and Sutter sometimes is difficult. So I know that with your leadership and with your expertise in negotiations, I'm sure that you'll be able to help with Yuba and Sutter be a stronger community. So just wanted to thank you. And all right, thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comment.
Through the chair, I move to approve items 1 through 16, excluding 11.
Second the motion.
Supervisor McKelly,
Aye.
Supervisor Flores,
Aye.
Supervisor Ziegemeier,
Aye.
Supervisor Baines,
Aye.
Supervisor Conant.
Aye.
Thank you. At this point, I'd like to ask Donna Johnson, the clerk of the boards, please come forward for a presentation.
Public hearing to consider an additional recording fee of $2 to be paid at the time of the recording of every real estate instrument, paper, or notice required or permitted by law to be recorded for the purpose of funding a restrictive covenant program pursuant to the provisions of Assembly Bill 1466, Chapter 359, an act to amend sections of the Government Code relating to real property.
Good afternoon, Honorable Board of Supervisors. I'm here before you today to ask if we can start the public hearing process to establish that fee as described by the clerk. We have two fees that we have right now that I have proposed before you today. One fee is to sunset. I'm asking to sunset a $2 fee for our Social Security truncation program. We recently took care of all of the duties associated with that by law, so we're hoping to stop that fee starting on April 1st, and then start a second fee, which would ultimately result in the exact same fee amount for any customers who are coming in to record a document for this new program that we have now been tasked with county recorders to take a look at all public documents that are coming through for recordation and have come through for recordation that have a restriction to who can own the property, whether it be race, religion, gender identity, marital status, national origin, those types of things. So we'll have a program now that we go back and take a look at these documents that are in our historical records, and we'll have a process where we have to take those records, take a look at those, give them to county council for review to see if they meet the requirements of the law, and then go through and strike that language from the offensive language from the documents. So that was a fee that we're asking to have be brought forward to you. And then it does have a sunset date of December 31st, 2027 if we haven't got the project completed by that time. As soon as we do get the project completed, we would stop the fee, would come back before you to stop the fee.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I'd like to open the public hearing. Are there any public comments? No. I'd like to close the public hearing. Is there a...
Through the chair?
Yes. Go ahead, Supervisor Flores.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the recommended action.
I'll second the motion.
Been moved and seconded. Clerk, you please, a roll call vote, please.
Supervisor McKelly,
Aye.
Supervisor Flores,
Aye.
Supervisor Ziegemeier,
Aye.
Supervisor Baines,
Aye.
Supervisor Conant.
Aye.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. At this time, if we could have Doug Libby, our principal planner, if you could please come to the lectern. Or sorry, Neil Hay will be presenting.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair Baines. So I just wanted to speak, kind of give you a heads up about this agendized item. You're going to hear from Doug Libby, our principal planner, and then also from, I believe, George Carpenter, Vice President from Wind Communities. And essentially, the matter before you, this is obviously for the Lakeside at Sutter Pointe project. As you may certainly remember, the county approved and executed a development agreement in November of 2020. And since that time, my department, the county, County Counsel's office, the AO's office has been working with the builders to essentially continue to move forward with their project. And in that time, they've made changes due to market conditions and a variety of circumstances that you're going to hear about today. The specific plan for Sutter Pointe essentially allows me as the director of the department to approve what are termed these minor revisions. But due to the significance of the project, we felt that it would be certainly important to bring it before your board so that you could understand the project and hear about its development. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Doug.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Let me just advance through a couple slides to kind of walk you through the minor revisions that are proposed with our Lakeside project. Everyone, I think, is familiar with where the Sutter Pointe Specific Plan is located at the southern end of Sutter County, just north of the Sacramento County line. The red area indicated on the map is the Lakeside project area. If I advance forward again, you will see the red outline area is Lakeside at Sutter Pointe. I would note that the specific plan is 7,500 acres. The Lakeside project is 873.5 acres, and that kind of gives you some context. To try to orient you a little bit, if you look this area right here, that would be the Cisco food distribution area, and then just a little bit further south, Holt, California was located there. I think you're familiar with this map. Lakeside was approved in 3 phases. The red outline indicates the first phase project just north of Riego Road, which is right down in this area. The second phase of Lakeside is this kind of middle section. And then there's a third phase, which is the upper probably 28-30% of the plan. The first phase development is about 1,082 single-family residences, to give you some context. And so at this point, I think you would recall from our Tier 2 development agreement and some of the project conditions, the applicants are required to enter into supplemental mitigation agreements with the 2 school districts down in this area. And so that's the Pleasant Grove Joint Union School District. That's they serve K through 8, and then the East Nicholas High School District. Although the mitigation agreement discussions are ongoing, they're active. I'm hopeful that they're going to be successful. At this point, they are not complete. And so at this point, the developers have a choice to make. They wish to move forward this spring with development, but they need to have certainty on what it is that they actually can develop. When we brought Lakeside forward in 2020, it was envisioned that phases 2 and 3 would have active adult. And what we mean by active adult is deed restricted to those age 55 and older. And so what they've proposed to do is, instead of having active adult in phases 2 and 3, is they would change that to have active adult in phase 1. And that would allow for them to move forward and also allow for the discussions with the 2 school districts to continue. It is their goal that if the negotiations are successful, then non-deed restricted, non-age restrictive development could occur in phases 2 and 3. But I do need to at least note that if the discussions happen to be unsuccessful, then there is a chance, however how small, that Lakeside could develop as just an active adult community. So if we fast forward to the next slide, the changes are laid out there. Minor relotting, number of lots unchanged. So let me walk through some of these changes with you. When we approved the Lakeside project, in this area right here, there was, and I'll show you on one of the next slides, there was a park on the corner right here, and then a clubhouse parcel. And so as a result of going to active adult, that means that they want to have gated communities. So the main drives into the development would be, and that's right now they're labeled Road 1 and Road 2. Those would be public road. But once you turn off of the main road into the development, then you would have gates, turnaround, as well as they wanted to move the park facilities inside the gated area. And the benefit of that is it creates a much larger single amenity, as you can see right here. The acreages don't change for either land use. But it does cause, when you do that shifting, having to relot. And so that's what the minor revision shows, the relotting of those lots. The number of lots don't change, and more importantly, the density that was originally analyzed in Lakeside doesn't change either. And so you would also see minor changes also in this gated area in this location, and this gated area in this location here. One of the other revisions is some minor changes to the roadway cross sections. The cross section A is the improvements to Riego Road, and this is actually a staff requested change, is because, as you're aware, staff is working with the staffs of Placer County as well as the city of Roseville to work on a project to hopefully widen the baseline road in Placer County, Riego Road in Sutter County, to be 4 lanes. And some minor changes to the roadway width up in this area was proposed to make the cross-section match with Placer County. So as a driver, ultimately, if that gets widened, you would have a seamless experience on either side of the border. The middle slide shows some minor change to the width down to 11.5 feet. That was also a staff requested change, and the primary purpose of that was to allow for actually traffic calming. When you pull into the development, having a slightly narrower lane causes traffic to slow down. So staff is actually trying to be proactive to minimize the number of speeding complaints we might receive in the future. The bottom 2 slides, E and F, those are the roadway cross sections that you would see inside the development itself, within the neighborhoods. And what the change is there is the developers tell us that their active adult communities don't develop with sidewalks on both sides of the street. They develop with sidewalks on one side of the street. And so staff requested that, well, if you're going to propose having sidewalks on just one side only, we want those sidewalks to be wide enough to accommodate 2-way pedestrian traffic. And so staff requested that the sidewalk be increased to 6 feet, and that could either have a separation from the roadway of a landscape median and then the 6 feet, or you could have a 6-foot sidewalk plus the roadway. The other change, which is minor overall, is with parkland. So when you have a normal, kind of typical non-age restricted development that's not gated, you have a certain parkland requirement that you have to meet the obligation of. However, when you have a gated community, that parkland isn't available to everyone, but it is a recreational amenity and should be given credit in some way. So looking in our region, both Placer County and El Dorado County, they provide a 50% park credit for private parkland. And so that's what's the minor changes proposed here. If you look at the specific plan requirement, you can see here that there's 11.6 acres of parkland that's required within the specific plan to meet its requirements. And that's 5 acres of parkland per 1,000 residents. Well, if you look at the center section here, just even providing for private park and 50% credit, this development is going to have 22.3 acres. So it's way over parked than what's the minimum than what's required. And when you even factor in, there's a large community park that will be public at the northwest corner of Phase 1. When you factor in that, the project, Phase 1 of Lakeside, will have 34.6 acres of parkland. So we wanted to make you aware of that change. Staff also took a look at the making the modification, how that would affect circulation and traffic. So your staff report includes a memo from the traffic engineer, Farron Pierce, and it shows that with active adult, you have the orange bars represent active adult, the blue bars represent traditional non-age restricted traffic. And you can see that whether it's the PM peak hour, the AM peak hour, or just number of trips, it's substantially reduced. And the reason why is because typically the age restricted, they travel at different times. They don't make as many trips as the younger generation. So we reflected that, and I said that's played out in the memo that is included in your staff report. Just as important is public safety. When the developers approached us with this concept of minor revisions, we've had a number of conversations with the fire chief as well as the sheriff. From a practical sense, most of the questions dealt with just from an implementation standpoint, having access, making sure that those first responders can get into and out of the gated neighborhoods as they need. We also had some conversations, and you'll see on the slide here, about prospective location for the joint fire and sheriff facilities. And that location there has been discussed with both the chief and the sheriff. But more importantly, one of the points that both of the chief and the sheriff stressed was the long build times that are required to either purchase fire apparatus or the sheriff's deputy vehicles. And so that was by them stressed to the applicants. And so they're going to be making some decisions in the near future. And I wouldn't be surprised later this calendar year, the advanced funding for that infrastructure coming forward and coming before your board. So where the Lakeside project is at this time is the county has been reviewing a number of master plans or improvement plans that deal with the sewer line, the sewer pump station, as well as mass grading. Phase 1 of Lakeside is around 400 acres. And so the goal is, if we move forward, is to see development, the grading part of development start this spring, actually May 1st. And the reason why May 1st is an important date is because that's under the Natomas Basin Habitat Conservation Plan. That's the earliest date you can start doing development earthwork. So that would conclude my comments, unless you have any questions. George Carpenter with Wind Communities is here, and he's also wants to come up and talk with you a little bit about their active adult concept.
Yes. Yes, please.
Does he have 3 minutes? Or?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair and Chairman and members of the board. My name is George Carpenter from Wind Communities. And first, I do just want to start with echoing something that Neil brought up, and that is I really appreciate how much staff has worked since we got this project approved before this board in November 2020. Everybody's rolled up their sleeves, and we started into the implementation phase of this with the design and engineering of a lot of infrastructure. We're having weekly meetings. People are collaborating, figuring out ways to get things done and get things built. And so we really do appreciate their efforts to that, all the way up through to the direction of the CAO's office. I do want to talk a little bit about the active adult community. Our goal is not to have an all active adult community. We would much rather have a mixed community of active adult and conventional housing. But as Doug said, we've hit a couple of constraints, and so we want to make sure that once we start this, we can finish it. You've heard us talk about having to build $100 million worth of infrastructure, and we can't start that and not know that we can finish the whole project out. And so that's really what our request is of staff. The active adult communities that Lennar is building in the Sacramento region are just fabulous. They're recreational rich, highly amenitized. They're designed for people who want to mix in their life. They want to be active. They want to have a sense of community, and their average ages are 55 to 62 years old. They're probably 35 to 40% of them are still working. They work in government jobs. They work in the medical field, and so these aren't where people just go off and you never hear from them again. They're active parts of the community. They do like to have nearby services and such things as like they want shopping nearby. They want casinos. They want medical, and at Sutter Pointe, there's going to be some of that eventually. There's other services that are in adjacent communities, and so this is really a good location for something like that. The outdoor spaces, you can see some of them in this slide here. They're really done very nicely. There's all kinds of outdoor activity spaces, from swimming to pickleball to tennis. Another really big component of these is just kind of the community experience. And you can see in the upper left-hand corner here, one of the community halls. There's social leadership that goes on in these. And so people are in all kinds of clubs. They go on excursions. It's really built around a sense of community. The other thing is the type of housing that's done here is aimed at the senior community. These are all single-story houses. The housing size is going to range somewhere between 1,200 square foot for maybe a single person to 3,000 square feet. And it's difficult to identify, where those are going to be located because they're going to be just all around the community.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Is there anybody else that would like to speak from the public? I'd like to close the public hearing and bring it back to the board. So I just want to remind you guys that there's no action that's going to be taken. This is just strictly a presentation.
Supervisor Baines?
Yes.
Supervisor Baines, we decided a vote will be needed on one part of the item, and that's for the 50% credit for the private park. The government code cited said the legislative body should decide that, so we'd like to take a vote on that today.
Through the chair.
Through the chair.
Oh, go
through
ahead.
the vice chair.
Supervisor Zigmeyer.
So the one thing, I appreciate Georgie coming up and speaking and staff, but I've been on school boards. I've been on a school board, and impact fees are a huge benefit to the school with newer classrooms and playground equipment and so forth. And we talk about this being not a big deal, a minimal deal, but I myself just built the house. I think I wrote a check to the tune of $18,000 to Sutter County. To the schools. It went between Sutter High School and Britton School. And if I used a fee of $15,000 per home, and it was built out first phase to 900 homes, you're almost at $10 million. And I think we owe it to the school districts and the community that when communities sits down with the school districts and comes up with that agreement that's going to benefit both. And I would just hate to see us move this portion of it first, and then all of a sudden something changes and this never comes to fruition. So, like I said, I'm for one holding off on this. I know we're not voting on anything, but I would recommend you personally to go sit down and have those meetings with the school districts to come up with the agreement.
Through the chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice Chair.
Supervisor Flores?
We have a comment here first.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Just to address Supervisor Zigmeyer's comment, up until a few months ago, the negotiations have been between the school district and the applicants. However, I think it was starting in December, staff started meeting with the schools and the applicants because we do know how important it is that an agreement be reached. Staff's desire is to see a mixed-use community get developed. And, the impact fees themselves are certainly an incentive for the district to come to an agreement. So those discussions are ongoing, and staff wanted to assure you that staff is playing a part in that.
Through the chair.
Supervisor.
Staff, can you explain the action again? Tell us what action we're taking today, legal counsel, please.
It would be to provide a 50% credit for private park acres within the gated active adult community in conformance with the Quimbley Act.
Okay, and so this 50% applies to this portion of the construction of this project, right? Not the future construction that's about to occur beyond
That's
this.
my understanding, and Doug, please confirm.
So the 50% park credit, the minor revision would allow for going forward, if there's private parks, then they would receive 50% credit for it.
As opposed to as opposed to 100%?
100% credit.
Okay. And how many active adult homes are going to be built in the first phase?
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
If there are no more public comments, can you close the public hearing?
At this time, I'd like to close public comment.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the reminder. So same question. How many homes are getting built in the first phase, active adult homes? And you said they're around 1,200 square feet average?
So the phase one has about 1,082 single-family homes, and then there's some increments of some higher density on top of that.
Okay, so I did need a little clarification on the park credit. So we have 50%. Where action is whether or not we accept the 50%. So after the 1,000 homes are built, then the next phase, this is still allowing for the 50%.
It would, but they would be required. So the small lot map that you saw up on the screen,
Yeah.
That's been approved by the county. They have not small lot mapped phases 2 and 3, so they're going to be coming back forward to the county in probably the next few years to map that. And so hopefully we will be able to close that conversation regarding active adult or not at that time. However, the change that's proposed is that, if there is going to be additional private parks, that they would be given 50% credit for that.
Okay, thank you. And then just some final comments, Mr. Chairman. I've personally been working on this project for over 20 years, and I bring this up sometimes, but I believe George had hair and I was a lot thinner back then. And it was at the time when I was the chairman of the Chamber of Commerce for the Yuba-Sutter community and the chairman of the Economic Development Corporation for the Yuba-Sutter community as well. And I think it's really critical that we move forward, and I appreciate your presentation and your stick-to-itiveness, George, and your whole organization and being here and giving us this information. And I, for one, I can't believe that I actually qualify for your active adult community at this point, because when I first moved here, I was far from that, and I was a definite younger go-getter. But I, for one, will be supporting this today for this action, and I look forward to the groundbreaking. I know you're not going to tell us exactly when, but we can't wait to be there, because it's been a long time, and I don't want to be in the assisted living portion by the time this thing takes off. So thanks again. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just, I know that we've got phase 2 and 3 coming up, and hopefully those negotiations with the school districts are fruitful. At this point, we're so close to kicking off this development. I think Sutter County can't afford to leave you with uncertainty and not get started as soon as possible. So I'll be voting for this motion. Thank you.
Supervisor Connor?
Through the chair.
So a couple comments. First of all, for those that aren't aware, Doug gave a great presentation, but it could be not construed that Riego Road is the same road as
Pleasant.
what's that?
Baseline.
In Placer County. Riego and Sutter County is the same road. So it's just an extension of the widening of the entire road through Placer County and Sutter County. I just want a clarification for that. Great presentation, George. I think this, I was hoping we could do the non-senior living first, but I think it's part of a mixed plan and a mixed community we're going to have. And I think that you need both sections. So hopefully we can resolve the other with the school district, and I think you can get there. I am going to support this as well. I think we need to move forward and let you guys start your project and get going.
Through the chair.
Excuse me,
Sorry, I have the Chairman Ziegemeyer.
Through the chair.
Yes.
So through the clerk of the board, now you had just mentioned, are we voting on the 50% on the parks, or, staff report says we're voting on being able to move around the phases. That's correct, isn't it? The whole thing's in this?
So the Director of the Development Services from the specific plan can make minor revisions. The purpose of the public hearing today was to sort of get public input before he made that final decision. He intends to make the decision to approve those minor revisions. The government code related to the Quimbley Act requires that the legislative body approve those credits. And so that's what the vote for today is to approve the 50% credit for the private park acres.
Oh, okay, so I'm sorry, I threw a high number out there, but I messed up here. So at 1,200 square feet, I used a number of $3.50 a square foot, which is fairly low. That would be about $4.5 million that the local school districts would lose out of if they were built out at 1,082 homes. So I think that what it does is it possibly pushes off the issue to another developer if phase 2 and 3 were to be sold down the road, and it doesn't give you I think you guys got to come to those talks sooner than later and sit down and don't leave the room until you figure it out, because I don't think it's fair to the school districts that we're moving this along, moving this down the road. Out of curiosity, out of your 55 and older, can they not have children? My dad was 61 years old when I was born. So are they not allowed to have kids?
George, you want to come up and answer some of these questions? Thank you.
Supervisor Ziegemeier, we have George Carpenter. If you had any questions, he's at the podium.
Yeah, maybe I could just address a couple of questions. One is that the active adult community is not required to pay a typical school impact fee, but they are required to pay sterling fees. So they do actually have to pay some money towards school impact fees. We would love to just pay school impact fees, but unfortunately that's not going to happen. The way we're going to end up having to build a new school that's going to cost probably $50 million and do somewhere between $5 and $10 million of improvements at East Nicholas High School. So we're going to do a lot for the school districts, and we can't just sit in the room until we get it figured out, but we are really trying. Doug is leading some really good, intense negotiations on this. So, I'm confident we're going to be able to get this done. So, anyway, I appreciate your support on that. Thank you.
Well, my question is, can you have school children in this active 55? Can you have children in general? Or is it 55 and older, no kids?
You can have, as long as one person is 55 and older, they can have a family live with them.
Okay, so like I said, that's to my board members, you know where I stand on this, and I hope you guys get back into those negotiating. And I will speak to both the superintendent of that district, and see if we can help push that along so you guys can come up with something. Thank you, George.
Through the chair.
Supervisor Flores.
Move approval of the recommended action.
Second.
It's been moved in second. We have a roll call vote, please.
Supervisor McKelly?
Aye.
Supervisor Flores?
Aye.
Supervisor Ziegemeier?
No.
Supervisor Baines?
Aye.
Supervisor Conant?
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. At this time, we have a parents item. We have David Reed. If you could please come to the lectern there from the Yuba-Sutter Arts and Culture.
Presentation and adoption of a resolution approving the application and authorizing execution of a state-local partnership program for Yuba-Sutter Arts and Culture with the California Arts Council.
Reoriented here with the technology. Okay, here we go. Good afternoon, Vice Chairman Baines, members of the board, and staff. Great to be back for our annual report about what we've been up to and what we're planning to do at the Yuba-Sutter Arts and Culture. It's an interesting note that 3 of the current sitting board members have been members of our board of directors. So, particular insights into what we do. I come to you today with three items, really. One is just the annual report that we like to make to the board. It's the request of the resolution as stated, which reauthorizes us as the Sutter County representative to the California Arts Council. And lastly, to make our annual funding request for local support. Our mission hasn't changed. We just want to, keep arts in the forefront of the community, and kind of maybe change the way you think about art and culture. Maybe expand your thinking. I mentioned our board members. We have representatives from both counties, 3 out of our 4 incorporated cities, lots of great community activists, and have a wonderful executive board. We're a nonprofit. Last year was our 40th year as the local representative of the California Arts Council, so we're in year 41 and couldn't do it last year, so we're planning a little birthday party, I think, later in April. What is art? It's that great question that, sometimes defies description, but I just want to make the point with this slide that we cover all aspects. It's not just, it certainly is, but not exclusively pretty pictures on the wall. We cover performing arts and really all aspects of the arts, and we try to touch on each of those areas through the work we do. We added the "and culture" to our marketing name a couple of years ago, just to remind ourselves in the work that we do to celebrate the great cultural diversity we have here in the community through the work we do with the arts and with all the different organizations that we collaborate with. And here's a little snapshot of some of the things that we do in terms of services to not only individual artists but to organizations, our professional development programs that we provide, a re-granting program thanks to a large grant we just got from the National Endowment for the Arts, where we're actually going to be able now to award local grants to arts organizations and artists through this NEA grant. We've done a lot of public art development over the years, as you know, whether it's utility boxes in Yuba City or murals in Live Oak. And of course, our key portfolios of arts and education programs, veterans arts initiatives, and also arts and corrections. We have a beautiful Marysville campus that we've just remodeled, our Burroughs Theater, the art gallery that adjoins in a separate building along with our offices, and of course the front of the building at 7th and East Street, just recently painted and fixed, spruced up a bit. So this last year, we were fortunate enough to be given to have acquired the Sutter Theater, now the Sutter Theater Center for the Arts. And we're just still kind of gearing up. We're not as active there yet as we want to be, but we've done quite a few shows just in the last 6 months. So keep an eye on that space for lots of great upcoming events. We use the lobby for some smaller events. We call it the Art Trim. And of course, the Clark Family Black Box is the main 150-seat theater that was currently open, and of course the Theater Art Gallery. And then, as many of you know, Phase 2 will be the development of the back half of the old Sutter movie theater, and that's sort of like a little time capsule right now, but we're going to kick off a major fundraising campaign for that later this year to get that open. Black box seats 150. The back half will seat about 300. Tons of arts and education programs. We've done theme-specific programs like Art to End Tobacco each year, working with Congressman Garamendi and soon-to-be Congressman LaMalfa. We put on the Congressional Art Competition for local high school students. We just finished up this year's round of Poetry Out Loud. That's the National Poetry Recitation Program for high school students. Tonight at 6 o'clock. Live on our, not live, but pre-recorded on our Facebook page and YouTube channel, so you can watch it later, catch the rerun. You'll see the Sutter County students participating along with the Yuba County participants. We wind up with a county champion from each county, who then goes on to statewide competition. In the next week or so, you'll see, learn about the regional winners for the Scholastic Arts and Writing Awards that we have been now 4 years in with the Sutter County Museum as our collaborating agency. We took over the whole thing this year with the transition from Jessica Haugen, although we're actively involved with Molly Bloom, the new curator of the museum. Again, ways to recognize students. It's not all about a competition, but it's nice to say, hey, won or participated in any one of these programs. Very special arts for our special needs students. Unfortunately, it's on hold again this year due to COVID. But that's a really wonderful program that any of you have. There's Supervisor Ziegenmeyer helped out and volunteered the last time we did it 2 years ago. So. Lots of collaborations with Yuba College, speech contest programs, both student and professor art exhibits. We work closely with President Dotson and her team and really appreciate that collaboration. We're also on the committee to paint a 9,000 square foot mural on the side of the theater building, so watch for that later this year. That's going to be real spectacular addition to that campus, I think. Youth programs just across the board, our youth choir, our youth performing arts program, Applause Kids, all virtual this last year, but we did 3 productions with Applause Kids, all virtual 30-minute musicals that are just stunning. You can watch any of those on Yuba-Sutter Arts YouTube channel. Many of you are familiar with our ongoing veterans programs, our portraits of veterans from a couple of years ago, where we photographed 400 local veterans and helped share stories about their time in service. The Veterans Art Park in Marysville on B Street, one of the first veterans programs we did. Veterans Ceramics Projects, we've still got some money in that pot. As soon as we can get back to active involvement with some of the veterans, we'll get them back into the studio and get them playing with mud. Community murals, you've seen a lot of these. This is probably the most public facing of what we do in addition to live performances. A couple of the murals we've done in Marysville. We're waiting for hopefully a renewal with the city of Live Oak. That was a 3-year project, $120,000. They put up $60,000. We put up $60,000 in matching funds to create basically an outdoor art gallery. And if you haven't been through Live Oak in a while, it's a pretty spectacular collection of murals. Utility boxes in Yuba City, probably the single most popular thing we've done as far as public art projects. So that's been a lot of fun. People just love them, and we get a lot of great positive feedback. A lot of artists involved. We've got the 2 art galleries, the one in Marysville and the one in Yuba City. This was our Birds of Feather. 5 indigenous artists came in and really put on a show with all kinds of art pieces, from digital art to traditional ecological knowledge using traditional materials, fur and fabrics and feathers and stone and just all kinds of things. Cultural projects each year, again, celebrating different aspects of the community. Our Fiesta de Frida, put on by Leila Rivera. Frida Kahlo is kind of her muse, and so she puts on this festival each year to celebrate Frida. We had a Guru Nanak 550th birthday party at the Marysville campus a couple of years ago. Our friends from Phoenix Drum and Dance come up from Sacramento and put on African drum and dance exhibits. Public art through a kind of with a history overlay when we created, through grants we received from the state, the Arboga Assembly Center. This was in South Yuba County. We are the Yuba-Sutter Arts Council and do our best to cover, both sides of the river, and I think do a pretty good job of it, particularly now that we have 2 physical entities, one in each county. We put on a terrific Yuba-Sutter film festival, short film festival last year at the Sutter Theater. Lots of local filmmakers just came out of the woodwork and did a great job creating 12 or 13-minute or shorter videos and films. We've been active with Marty Sanders in the Chamber of Commerce, helping create the Film Commission. I think you all have helped to fund, and we're looking forward to that going live as another aspect of economic development through the arts, helping to market Yuba-Sutter to the broader filmmaking world and bring them here to understand all the great assets we have for filmmakers. Harvest the Arts will be back in October. We've met with John Heyer, and we're looking forward to that great fundraiser event of ours, kind of our marquee event. Lots of artists, lots of restaurants, lots of live music. It's a terrific event. We're actively involved in Marysville, in the city of Marysville, with our committee that's raising funds for the Cotton Rosser Bronze Statue Project to help commemorate this local legend. 1¼ times life size, 7 tons of bronze in Plaza Park, just to the right of where the Bacchae Temple and the what's the name of that? Oh, Silver Dollar. Gosh, how can I forget the Silver Dollar? Just to the park to the right there. So it'll be a great location. It's where the cattle drive winds up each year. Again, grants drive a lot of the programs we do. Jump Starts, where we go into at-risk to meet at-risk students in the various continuation schools. Arts and Corrections in the county jails. Arts Exposure, that's the field trip grant we got. We took students before COVID to LA to the Getty Museums. We just took Marysville High School students to the Crocker. Some of the students had never been to Sacramento. It's kind of an amazing thing. Thanks to COVID, we learned a lot about virtual programming. We got very active, very aggressive. We've continued some of those programs, all about the arts, artist alchemy, various online poetry programs. Marcelo Hernandez Castillo on the lower right corner on the left. He's a local poet, grew up here, has quite a story, and he is currently our Yuba-Sutter Poet Laureate, and he is a candidate for California Poet Laureate. So stay tuned for that one. Raj Kalin, a woman that grew up here, went on to UC Davis, New York, now lives in Berlin. Supervisor Baines was there for a great presentation, tremendous art speaking to violence against immigrant populations. Rocky Horror Picture Show, it's probably the most popular thing we do each year. And so it'll be back. It'll be at the Sutter Theater this year, so we can cram a few more people, and we got to hose it down afterwards. But it's a messy show, but we love it. How can you help individually support arts and culture? We've got a membership program. You may have seen the stars in front of the Sutter Theater. Lots of heavy donors made that space happen. Some of you are in the room. Those stars are still some space for a few more stars. You can buy a seat, and for the back theater, where we're going to reupholster and refinish the old seats that are still there. So lots of ways you can help support the work that we do. And just to boil it down to dollars and cents here to make it as simple as I can, these are the grants that we either have commitments for or expect to receive. And I'm cut the BS here. We've got about a 600 or 60% batting or 600% batting average. We know we'll get the SLP partnership program, but this is the money we're bringing into the community that wouldn't be here otherwise if our organization didn't exist. But the next 18 months, you can see there's some, pretty nice numbers there. I mentioned the NEA grant. That's in hand, $150,000 that we're going to be distributing to the community. So to help support our whole total arts and culture ecosystem. So lots of social media presence. Thank you all. Great to be here. And I believe I presented this already in the form of a letter to the board. We're asking this year for a $10,000 support, which I should point out will be used for matching funds, so that 10 will actually equal 20. So, or whatever the budget will allow this year. So, thank you. Any questions?
To the chair, I just wanted to clarify that money request is not agendized today, but it can be brought to a future meeting.
Thank you for that clarification. At this time, we're going to open up the public comment. I have a speaker card here, Diane Jager.
Good afternoon again. I may get a little emotional, so just going to warn you in advance. The issue that I have is when Mr. Reed speaks about celebrating freedom, and yet that is not the case when you try to enter an event because of mandatory vaccines. Our country is in a place that is very uncomfortable, but other countries are figuring this out, and I want to bring some information to you. Just a couple of things. First of all of UK lifted all of their mandates for vaccines, and that is based upon their data. And what they discovered now into this is that there's double or triple the amount of people that become infected with COVID that have had the vaccines. So they are not effective. The other thing is to pressure someone into a vaccine with data now that was just released from the Department of Defense, with women in the military that were all given vaccines. And this comes off of their billing codes, the DOD billing codes. So this is it's not some make-believe, okay? They have seen a 400+% increase in reproductive issues. A 300% increase in miscarriages, a 156% increase in malformed babies, and a massive increase in infant deaths from age 0 to 1 year. I am a grandmother of 8. I am a great-grandmother of 6. I want my grandchildren and great-grandchildren to be able to have a family. And what they're seeing in Africa is that they pull the vaccines because doing testing, they found the bulk of the young women are sterile. I'm sorry, but you demand to have vaccines to get in to see something when in our community, the acting company, what did they do? They took this proactively. They put in a cleansing system, 2 units in the acting company on B Street that purifies the air for not only COVID, but for anything else. If you're going to get funding, that's where it should go and allow us to have the freedom that is guaranteed by our Constitution.
To the chair, may I offer a point of clarification?
Yes. Thank you for your comments. Absolutely.
Yes, sir. All right. Yes, Yuba-Sutter Arts and Culture, for a variety of reasons, has a very aggressive COVID policy. However, we have never and do not currently require a vaccination or proof of vaccination. That is not true. What we do ask for is that you wear a mask. We provide them if the individual does not have one. And we do ask for a negative PCR result. We do not require vaccination. So,
thank you for that clarification. Yes, okay, at this time, we have another speaker card. We have Courtney Ortega with the Glad Tidings Church.
Thank you. My comment will echo Mrs. Jagger's comment. I didn't know that, Mr. Reed. You know, to be honest, I had been out to your show the other day and had watched person after person get turned away. I think at this point to expect people to prepare a PCR test, which has been recalled by the CDC in advancement of one of your shows, is it's a tall order to ask for, I think, and especially seeing as there is a venue very similar to yours, the Yuba City Acting Company, who does not require any of these, has not been subject to lawsuit, has not been subject to outbreak, has not had any negative consequences. I would strongly suggest that your company look to adjust your policy to match that of the acting company. Here in Sutter County, only 64% of the people here are fully vaccinated. That means that over 35% of the Sutter County population, they can't attend your events. And I think that if the arts and culture company wants to exclude a percentage of the public, then you have the right to do so as free Americans. However, I don't think it's appropriate that the organization act within the privilege afforded to nonprofit and government agencies, and that would be public. So I don't think that the two can go hand in hand. I think that if you're going to blatantly discriminate against a certain sector of the public, whether you believe it's their decision or not, it is their decision. But I don't think that it is appropriate for the board to allow them public funds. So this county unanimously passed a resolution against medical mandates. And I think it's appropriate that there's an expectation for organizations to meet the same standards, which this county has set. So I'm asking that until Mr. Reed changes his public safety policy to allow the entirety of the public to attend his events, that these requests be delayed. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
To the chair, may I offer a point of clarification?
Sure.
I report to a board of directors. I don't make the policy. The board is involved in that decision process. So it's not a matter of David Reed making those changes, but thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we have a speaker card for Susan Miller.
Thank you, Sutter County Supervisors. I'm Susan Miller, board member of the Yuba-Sutter Arts and Culture Council and former board member and co-chairperson of the Sutter Performing Arts Association. I am here before you to speak in support of the resolution approving the application authorizing the execution of a state-local partnership program and support the annual request for continued funding. As you know, the Sutter Performing Arts Association completed its goal of rehabbing the first half of the old Sutter Theater on Plumas Street. I was honored to serve on that board for 9 of 14 years, the 14 years of the project duration. When it came time to move forward with the next phase, quickly and without exception, each Sutter Performing Arts board member realized that the Yuba-Sutter Arts and Culture Council was the logical choice and the best choice to take our work forward and move it toward the next level for 3 very special reasons. 1, the current Yuba-Sutter Arts Council has the leadership and track record for fundraising and securing grants so necessary for this work to continue, and they have an infrastructure to support the work. The council, 2, the council is widely recognized in this community and beyond for its tremendous history, commitment, and quality of work. And 3, a large goal of the Sutter Performing Arts was to serve both counties and recognize the tremendous local talent, and the Yuba-Sutter Arts Council does that so very well. Almost immediately upon owning the Sutter Theater, as they became owners in October, Yuba-Sutter Arts Council hosted several events, all which were received with enthusiasm, positive energy, and an excitement with the promise of building a stronger commitment to the arts on both sides of the river. They have set goals to explore the feasibility of rehabbing the back half of the theater into a full theater with backstage capacity, tiered seating, and other amenities. While COVID has stopped many in-person events, the council has been extremely creative in keeping the arts flourishing, as well as continuing with partnerships and recognitions of great talent. I will also add that during the difficult times of COVID, the board struggled with how to preserve the rights of many people who wishing to stay safe in a community event, as well as the freedoms of others. And the board did look to other venues and other art councils and other art associations for guidance, and came up with policy of a negative COVID test or a vaccination, as well as wearing masks, which we do provide. Therefore, many people have received, walked through the doors, and valued the work of the Yuba-Sutter Arts. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. There's no other speaker cards.
To the chair.
I've got to close.
Oh, you got to close it. I'm sorry.
Close public comment or the public hearing. Bring it back to the board. Supervisor Flores.
Speak now. Great. Thank you. First, I want to say thank you, Mr. Reed, for your presentation, and thank you to the last speaker for clarifying what you do. That so much happens. There's just so much work I know that you put into it. I know that I'm working now on both sides of the bridge as well, and I see you at both places, and I'm thinking, wow, that puts in a lot of time in this. But I just want you to know that I'm totally honored to have the new theater in the 2nd District of Sutter County. We heard Sandy Drown, who owns a restaurant, the Happy Viking, and the Restaurant Association is always also really proud to have you downtown. But I'm going to have to turn. I have to return. What? Sorry. Did you say something? No. It sounded like you did.
I was talking to Matt. I'm sorry.
Okay, it was pretty loud there. Okay, well, just think of that. But anyway, Sandy Drown owns a restaurant, and but I wanted to say I'm going to have to recoin it. Not just the heart of Sutter County, but now it's going to be the home of the arts, home of arts and culture. And I think that's really great that you're there. I also want to say that it's great that you're in Marysville as well. I think combining the 2 counties and combining the 2 cities that are connected by 2 bridges. My district is the only district connected by 2 bridges to Marysville, and I think it's important that whatever happens in Marysville is going to happen in Yuba City as well. But I just want to compliment you on all the work. I mean, looking at all these things, I want to thank Supervisor Baines as well for serving on your board and all the other board members who serve on the board. And I've dealt with a lot of people in working with economic development and supporting the whole region. But one of the big things that always comes up is, where's your arts and where's your culture? And now this is something that we're able to go out and brag about. I go to Sacramento quite a bit, as do my colleagues here. And we hear about Sacramento, and we hear about West Sacramento, we hear about other parts of the state. And now we can go out and say, we have a very strong arts and culture area or region for us. And so those are bragging rights, and that allows us to bring people in to our community and helps our economy overall. So I just want to say thank you so much for the work that you do. Okay, and I would recommend that we would increase the amount. So if the board would consider the donation to arts, as we're not doing that tonight, but just something to think about for the future, that we increase the amount that we provide for arts and culture in this community. Thank you. Through the chair.
Supervisor Kelly.
Yeah, just want to say a big thank you again. You do a wonderful job, and looking forward to the fundraiser out in the Buttes again. Finally, you know, it's COVID has interrupted so many of our plans, as with our fundraiser for Yuba-Sutter stand down and for military veterans. For those of you who haven't attended, David graciously provides all those photos of the military veterans and really makes it a beautiful event. So thank you again.
Thank you to the chair.
Supervisor.
So, David, thank you for your support in the program, and I love the fact that you do have it in District 2, but District 5 is God country, so we'll have to leave it at that. But you guys do a great job, and I really appreciate the fact that what you've done with that theater in Yuba City is truly incredible.
So I'd just like to and thank you all for your comments. It has been it's been a great ride serving on that board. You don't really know what they all do or what they provide until you're in that capacity. I was just taking on the community to kind of look in to see what programs or what you could participate in, the upcoming events. We talk about Sacramento, and we forget about the local talent that we have here. And for you to be able to showcase and those people to be able to come out, there've been some amazing people in this community that I think we need to actually go and really show up for and support, and before we lose them, 2 venues in Sacramento. So guys, I want to thank you for your presentation, and I appreciate the opportunity to serve on that board, and look forward to continuing to serve. So thank you.
Through the chair.
Yes, sorry.
Through the chair.
Go ahead. I forget his
name. Having served on the Arts Council for 2 years, my first 2 years, I've seen firsthand in the groups that they've helped out, from younger to high school to middle age and seniors, and especially our veterans. And it's a really good thing. We are lucky to have Dave and Abby. But at the same time, I'm really happy to hear that you don't have a vaccine mandate. I don't believe in vaccine mandates, nor do I believe in mask mandates. Testing, I'm fine with getting a test, but I just don't believe in, like I said, the mask mandate or the vaccine mandate, and I'm outspoken on that. But with that being said, I do love the work and value the work. You guys put a tremendous amount of time in, and I've worked with those school children and the events, and it's amazing what you do. But I'm hoping that you follow suit with the state, that the mask mandate goes away on the 15th, but thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Ziegler. I appreciate the comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. No, well, this was presentation.
Yeah, adoption of the resolution.
Okay, got you. So
Make a motion to
the
approve.
board.
Second.
And moved in second, moved by Supervisor McKelly, seconded by Supervisor Conant. Roll call vote, please.
Supervisor McKelly?
Aye.
Supervisor Flores?
Aye.
Supervisor Ziegemeier?
Aye.
Supervisor Baines?
Aye.
Supervisor Conant?
Aye.
Motion carries. Moving on to item number 20.
Approval
Do
to
one more?
release
Let's
the
do one
apparent low bidder, Roofing and Solar Construction Incorporated, from their
Excuse
bid.
me. Sorry, everybody's kind of been here for a little bit. Can we take a 5-minute break and then come right back to this item?
Yuba-Sutter.live's local government live streams are presented by Plumas Lake Self-Storage in Plumas Lake, where lifelong local residents are helping other residents keep things safe, providing indoor storage units, outdoor RV and vehicle parking, moving supplies, and Penske truck rentals. Details at plumaslakeselfstorage.com. Why is Dan Flores grinning? Find out noon Wednesday. It's a new show. That's right, a new show here on Yuba-Sutter.live. Lunch with Langdell. We've got food. And sometimes the inside scoop. Lunch with Langdell, noon Wednesday here on Yuba-Sutter.live.
Yeah, no. All right. We're getting, huh? Okay. We'll open this back up and go back
Approval to release the apparent low bidder, Roofing and Solar Construction Incorporated, from their bid due to a bid submission mistake. Approval to award a construction contract to RSM Rua and Sons Mechanical in an amount not to exceed $1,246,680 for the fiscal year 2021-22 roof replacement project. Authorization for the Director of Development Services to execute the contract. Authorization for the Director of Development Services to execute change orders in an amount not to exceed $74,839, and approval of an adjustment to the fiscal year 2021-22 adopted budget, increasing appropriations in the amount of $1.4 million in the Capital Projects Fund 0016.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair, Chair, and Supervisors. As you heard, this staff report before you includes 5 recommendations. This is the project to replace the roof at 463 2nd Street, the county's courthouse and administration building, as well as the roof at 1130 Civic Center Boulevard. The reason for the releasing the low bidder is they submitted a bid, and then within the allowed period, they submitted a justification and an explanation as to why they wanted to remove their bid. Essentially, they were about $320,000 lower than the next second bidder that were recommending the contract award. Because they provided the explanation, it does comply with the requirements of the Public Contract Code. So they, in our recommendation, should be released from their bid. The other recommendations, like I say, include the adjustment to the budget for the project, and it includes money for the potential change orders that may occur. The roofs on 463 2nd Street has been there since essentially since the building was constructed back in the mid-60s. So there may be some unknown damage that is exposed once the roof is removed. Should any change orders exceed my authority, we would return before your board for approval of the work. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Through the chair.
Supervisor Conant?
So Neil, that's a 27% increase over the previous bid. What was his third highest bidder?
The third bidder was within about $50,000 of the number 2 bidder. So essentially the 2, 3, and 4 bidder were all relatively closer. It was just that the low bidder, their explanation was that they had a typo in their bid. Essentially, they were missing $200,000.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead, Dan.
I think it's been a long time coming to get this done, and I'm not sure any prices are going down anytime soon. And as painful as it is, I just think we're going to have to proceed. So I don't know any other way around it. But I don't know if any other board members have comments. But if not, I'd like to entertain. I'd like to move. I'm not the chairman anymore. I'd like to make a motion to support the recommended action.
I'll second that.
I second.
Okay.
So we have a motion by Supervisor Flores and a second by Supervisor Ziegemeier. A roll call vote, please.
Supervisor McKelly?
Aye.
Supervisor Flores?
Aye.
Supervisor Ziegemeier?
Aye.
Supervisor Baines?
Aye.
Supervisor Conant?
Aye.
The motion is carried.
Authorization to initiate a general plan amendment to revise policies pertaining to the establishment of estate residential parcels within the unincorporated county and incorporating updated floodplain mapping as previously approved by the Board of Supervisors.
So once again, Neil Hay, Director of Development Services. I was going to start off this item. It was originally presented to your board on December 14th, and you directed us to make a presentation to the Farm Bureau. So our principal planner, Doug, did that. I attended as well, and he made his presentation. We also answered questions from the members of the Farm Bureau. Subsequent to that, your board, I believe, has received a variety of comments, for the most part, I believe, opposing the consideration of this general plan amendment. Some of the comments have ranged and explained that they would like to remain or keep the general plan as is in place. And certainly that is obviously your board's direction that you can provide to our department. The other item, just to clarify, is that state law does provide for 4 general plan amendments that can be adopted per year through a county or a city. So that is essentially the reason why we brought this matter before your board previously for consideration, is to try to make consideration of changes to the existing general plan in between updates so that it may either align with changes that occur within the community or within the county, or also to address concerns of a change in supervisors. This recommended action previously was brought before your board due to the types of applications that were and questions that were being asked of my department, and the requirements of the Ag 20, Ag 40, and Ag 80 zonings, and what that it allows and doesn't allow. And so consequently, we brought it before your board. My department was trying to offer essentially a form of residential development that would create a buffer between the sphere of influence of the city and the agricultural community of the county. I think my department is well versed, and my staff has been intimately involved with past general plan updates, so they're certainly well aware of the concerns and the importance of agriculture in our community. And so this general plan amendment was an action that your board could consider. So Doug Libby is going to make the presentation to kind of bring forward, I believe, the comments that we received since your previous presentation in December. And then I would point out that the actual recommended action for the staff report has been modified to allow your board to either direct staff to cancel or to proceed with either the general plan amendment as originally proposed or some modified version, or to cancel it altogether. And our department can bring forward other recommended actions or other recommended changes to the zoning code for your board's consideration. I'm happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, I'll let Doug make the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Vice Chair, thank you. Good afternoon. So this item came out of a study session that we held with your board back on October 26th. And it was, I think, in support of allowing some development in Sutter County. I think, as you're well aware, so much of our county, up to 70+% of it, is impacted by various floodplain designations, which make development difficult and in some cases impossible. So adding on what Neil said, we look at areas around where development could potentially happen around the sphere of influence of Yuba City, which is either in a very shallow floodplain or you can actually build a grade. So that's some of the reason why, because so much of the county you cannot develop in. Neil touched on the Farm Bureau visit by staff, the conversation that occurred, in the letter that is included in your staff report. I did want to touch on, at your December 14th board meeting, there was a concept discussed regarding the identification of individual parcels in each supervisorial district for possible inclusion in the general plan amendment and subsequent rezoning. Staff does not recommend this option because changing land use designations on individual properties, presumably zoned agriculture today, to an employment zoning and undefined project will result in the need for the county to environmentally analyze a worst-case scenario for potential uses and would require the preparation of a costly and lengthy environmental impact report. If the Board of Supervisors desires to make those types of changes, staff recommends a general plan update where a citizen advisory committee can be established and land use and policy recommendations can be made to both the Planning Commission and your board. I think it's important to note that nothing prevents individual landowners to submit an application, pay the appropriate fee as adopted by your board, to have their proposed land use changes in projects considered by the county, analyzed environmentally, and recommendations brought forward to the Planning Commission and Board of Supervisors for consideration. It's also important to note that The county has initiated a study that will include analysis of potentially moving undeveloped employment corridor zoned land south of Yuba City along Highway 99, where it is currently in a floodplain, to along State Highway 20 west of Yuba City that is outside of a floodplain area. Should the Board of Supervisors decide to implement that type of land use change when we come back forward to you, it will require an environmental impact report, which could be incorporated into a comprehensive general plan update. As a second recommended option, staff could, as Neil noted, review current zoning code development standards and identify potential changes to facilitate development that would not require preparation of an environmental impact report. This would allow the county to begin setting aside funding to complete a comprehensive general plan update in the future. The rest of your staff report largely mimics the staff report that was presented to you on December 14th, which lays out the concept for allowing development within of additional estate residential land. And so for that, I won't repeat it for you, but just wanted to reiterate that estate residential is for parcel sizes ½ acre to 3 acres. And wanted to clarify that this proposal before you is not taking final action. It is initiating a process, and that process staff would go away and do the required work, would come back before the Planning Commission where a recommendation would be made, and then it would come back before your Board of Supervisors at notice public hearings for action. So that would conclude my comments unless you have any questions.
To the chair.
Yes.
Vice Chair. Thank you. If I may, I just wanted to mention that when Mr. Libby mentioned certain options for a comprehensive general plan update, that would require several $1 million. I want to make sure the board is aware of that versus these kind of individual updates that are allowed several times per year by law. Thank you.
Through the chair. I know that I believe the Farm Bureau submitted a letter. I don't know if the clerks have that or we could submit it unless you guys have already seen it.
It's in our packet.
Oh, okay. Okay.
We received it. Yes, also, I think there's someone online here we have from the Farm Bureau, Chris Sharing. I think it was asked at the last meeting for someone to be here from Farm Bureau if there's any questions. So he is online joining us on Teams. Right.
I am aboard, and I have about 2 minutes of my own comment whenever you get a chance, Mr. Chair.
Okay. At this time, we're going to open up the public hearing. We have speaker cards. First, what's that? Yeah, okay, so up there, go ahead and go first.
I'm sorry, was that directed at me?
Yes, it was. Sorry.
Oh, okay. That's sort of embarrassing. So thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Chris Shearing. I'm a staff lawyer at the Farm Bureau in Sacramento, also a farmer in Yolo County. The president of the local Farm Bureau, Yuba-Sutter Farm Bureau, had a scheduling conflict today, so she asked me to appear on behalf of the Yuba-Sutter Farm Bureau, and that's why I'm here. Thank you for letting me appear remotely. I think the last time I was up there, personally, I was asking you to keep the Williamson Act, and that didn't go too well for me, so hopefully better today. Thank you for your commitment to ag in Sutter County. It's a storied agricultural county. Your general plan, past boards, your board has been protective of agriculture, and we're just here to urge you today to act in that manner. I stand solidly behind the comment letter that was offered to you by the Yuba-Sutter Farm Bureau. We ask you not to initiate the general plan amendment at this time, among other things, because you have a policy in the general plan apparently that says that existing residentially zoned land should be built out before you consider new development, and I sort of like that one. I don't think that one should change, and we have heard certainly in the presentation before this one that there are other projects in Sutter County yet to be built out that maybe should be completed first before new zoning for residential purposes is considered on ag lands. The other thing is CEQA. I saw something in the staff report that said, well, if we did this, we'd have to do a full EIR, and that's CEQA, and that's costly and expensive. CEQA is, but when we're talking about building on ag land, maybe CEQA is exactly what we need, which is a discussion of the impacts, how to mitigate them, how to avoid them, and that sort of thing. Because the one thing we know about chopping up farmland and putting buildings on it is that it doesn't ever come back. So it's a big step. So again, that's all for me. Thank you very much for letting me appear on the screen rather than in person. I would be there if I could. And please follow the ask in the Yuba-Sutter Farm Bureau's letter, which is no need to initiate the general plan amendment at this time. Happy to host a town hall at the Farm Bureau, discuss this more thoroughly, but let's not start the staff process quite yet is the request. So thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. This time with a speaker card, Lawrence Metz.
Cool.
Hello, I'm Lawrence Mertz. I'm the president of the Sutter County Taxpayers Association. We have between 30 and 60 members at this time, despite COVID. You would do that to me. Thank you, Vice Chair and Supervisors, for giving me the opportunity to speak. I'm a longtime resident of Sutter County, been here almost 50 years. As a representative of the Sutter County Taxpayers Association, our members have some disagreement with the reasoning to circumvent the general plan. This county-developed plan was paid for by the Sutter County taxpayers, costing $1.5 million. It was designed for a period of 20 years. This plan was developed to protect land adjacent to the urban areas for agriculture. I suggest we follow the general plan as it was written.
Thank you. Next speaker card, Joe Lemoniger.
Good evening, Joe Lemoniger, come from Town Sutter. First, I'd like to thank Chris for putting in the time to come and speak with you gentlemen on behalf of Farm Bureau. Some other things to consider within this potential modification. We're looking at a land grab of 4,000 acres. You know, this is not a small amount of farmland that we're looking at changing the zoning on. If you do the math, it comes out to be about 4,000 acres. A little over 3,000 of that is Class 1 soil, which is designated as high importance within the state of California. We can't just go out and make that kind of soil. It's a finite resource that we have to do everything that we can to protect. I found it kind of fitting in the invocation that was done at the beginning of the meeting when the gentleman asked for blessing on some different items and certain individuals. First thing that was mentioned was agriculture. And we need to keep in mind that agriculture is what founded this area, found this community, and make sure that we are doing everything that we can to protect that, which I believe was the intent in the writing within the original 2030 plan, that current plans prohibit the new land designated ER to be switched without current build out, as Chris had already stated. And with that, I thank you gentlemen for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Mary Henson.
Thank you, members of the board. My name is Mary Henson. I'm a retired farmer, I think, though farmers never retire. I'm also a retired school board member, so I understand a lot of mitigation monies and stuff. My question to you is, what is your goals and objectives? Is your goals and objectives to keep land? Is your goals and objectives to have a vibrant inner city? Is your goals and objectives to get rid of the homeless and all the drugs and everything else that is causing us problems? Right now, there are essentially very few homes available for under $300,000. And if you look on Realtor.com, you'll understand what the going price is. Our employees who work in ag cannot afford that. And until we go completely industrial on agriculture, we need employees. We need them to be in clean housing with adequate water. And estate houses is not what we need. My opinion, for what it's worth, is that we need homes that are low cost. That's going to be real expensive at $700 or whatever it is for lumber now. So how about thinking about some trailer parks that have adequate playgrounds that are for families, families of small kids, families who are going to our schools, families who are going to be the next supervisors. We need to keep our inner city vibrant. We need to have transportation, which is going to be really hard at a state. And as an ex-farmer next to child care and schools, it's really hard to spray. And as an ex-hellerman, people with small orchards do not spend the money to get rid of navel orangeworm and your list of bugs, which in turns becomes little hatcheries for everybody else's nuts. So I suggest go back, and if you want to change the general plan, then have a meeting and visualize what you want for Sutter area, not Yuba. But this is piecemeal. This isn't going to work. We've already tried it with small estates of 5 acres, a half, 3 acres. Unless everybody has a horse or a bunch of goats, who's going to eat all the grass? I'm sorry. That's my points.
Thank you for your comments. We have also on Teams Christine Ivory who would like to make a comment.
Yeah, I want to thank Joe and Chris for commenting and Chris for being there. And I want to thank Sutter County for making it available for us to be in Tulare, right, at a farm show, and also be able to attend this meeting. The Yuba-Sutter Farm Bureau appreciates the ability to comment and would like to be involved anytime agriculture is discussed. It is our mission to promote and protect agriculture in Sutter County. We feel our continued involvement could curb future adversity. We expect Sutter County to keep these discussions as transparent as possible and bring us to the conversation from the beginning. We appreciate Planning and Development Services attending our meeting and look forward to continuing the open and communication. We hope the board chooses not to amend the general plan and not rezone over 4,000 acres from agriculture to estate residential. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Brian Greathouse.
Good evening, supervisors. My name is Brian Greathouse. I'm part of Farm Bureau, but also a stakeholder as part of the property that would be in your plan rezoned. And as I see it, this is the sphere of influence. That's where it needs to stop. Like we've talked about, 4,000 acres. The ground is too vital. And the way you have come about it, or staff has, the horseshoe around all of Sutter County, there is better ways to do this, to come together. And I said, re-update a general plan when it's time. Let this general plan go. And my fact of it is this ground that you have proposed west of Township, in the last heavy rains, there was nearly 3 feet of water and my family, we've contacted, we could never get drainage fixed in that area. So you could raise the houses. What are you going to do with the water? You can't drain. We've asked Neil Hay before. Daphne Lane, I guess, maybe got fixed. But again, you're looking at another Daphne Lane. All these are, as state residential, is just another ranchette. You go to the ranchettes on Franklin and Lincoln Road in a heavy rain. Yes, the house is elevated. It is just a pond of water. You have no drainage there. Why would you want to put more houses there when agriculture, mostly rice fields, can hold that water? So I implore you just to do not vote against this and let the general plan work the way it is set. Thank you.
Well, the disadvantage, hello board. The disadvantage of being a little later on as a speaker is that all the points have already been mentioned. And being as how I'm from an extremely nice district, there are several things that I can see just around our neighborhood. There are a lot of homes that are going in that are on legal parcels. And I think the residential estates would merely cause that to greatly expand. One of the hardest areas to work with as a supervisor was the area that's south of Yuba City, which had a lot of large residential and is sparsely populated. Well, you can't ever bring sewer out there anymore because it's hard to pay for that if you don't have enough houses per acre. So that's one point that I wanted to bring up. Just recently received my letter from the Water Coalition. I'm supposed to test my well, look for nitrates. And it's not that anybody's going to pay for it. I have to pay for the test. And the reason being is that we do have some nitrates problem within our county. And by adding more homes that are going to have to be on septic system, you're just going to increase that input. So that was one point that hadn't been mentioned yet. Probably the last point, because everything else was pretty much covered, I've known Doug Libby for quite some time, and he works pretty hard, and I think it would be best if you could tell him just not to do anything with a general plan, and that would make his life easier. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul Bossy?
Thank you, members of the board. Paul Bossy. Just thinking back in 2011 when I was a planning commissioner for Sutter County, we spent, millions of dollars or $1.5 million and countless hours of updating our general plan, which is a document that's living and breathing, supposed to be in effect up until about 2030. So I would like to just keep that general plan the way it is. And honestly, after I heard this proposal at the Farm Bureau, I don't really see any valid reason as to why we need to even bring this proposal up or this even be a topic of discussion, because it absolutely makes no sense to me. I know there's an issue regarding affordable housing, but this is not the solution. I don't understand how affordable housing correlates with estates, residential, and ranchettes. It doesn't work. So I suggest we leave the general plan as is. Thank you very much. Oh, and I think there was something, Brian saying something about Sigma. Yep, so the whole water usage, the state mandate, so that's another issue that we need to consider as well, because that's going to tie our hands up even more so. Thank you.
Thank you. That's the end of the speaker cards. And Madam Clerk, I guess there's been letters that have come in.
Yes, Vice Chairman, we received 16 comments via email, all in opposition to item 21.
So please let it be noted that those have been received.
Can I start to the chair?
Supervisor Connor, go ahead.
Okay, so I couldn't agree with all the comments everybody's made. And Chris Shearing, I guess you're off now, but I want to say hello. I happen to agree with everything everybody said here tonight. I am very concerned about the estate residential parcels being proposed. I think that this idea is a bad idea. for one thing, let's just look at the long haul. This would basically fence the city in. Is that what we really want to do? Down the road, sometime, maybe not in any of our lifetimes, but sometime the city may want to expand their sphere of influence. How are they going to go through these estate residential lots from half-acre to 3-acre lots? They're going to have to build infrastructure through that. And then what are you going to have? This estate residential lots that are there forever in the middle of the city? Eventually that's what would happen. Maybe not in any of our lifetimes, but sometime. The other thing is I'm a farmer. Most of you know that. And I don't want to farm around any houses, let alone a bunch of houses. And I thank God every day I live in God's country in District 5 that I don't have this problem. There aren't that many houses in my district. Until the new maps were drawn for the supervisor, I had the smallest population and 48% of the land mass of the county. I'd like to keep it that way. I'm not being negative towards people that live in the communities on state residential lots, but most of those people don't want to be around farmers, and farmers don't want to have to try to manage dust, odors, and other issues, even sprays, and the noise it makes at night around the state residential lots. And the state residential people don't want us there either. So it's kind of a mutual thing, I think. There's not going to be any affordable housing built on the state residential lots. These lots are going to be very expensive to buy and very expensive to build custom homes. You don't get affordable housing out of custom homes. They're not on track lots, obviously, because they're state residential. You're also ruining a lot of good Class 1 soil that, like Chris Shearing mentioned in his comments, once you build a house, you usually tear it down, and you're never going to put it back into farming. Let's look at a couple more things. The average state residential lot, minimum size, 1/2 acre, is approximately 147 feet and a quarter by 148 feet. That's what a half-acre lot is. And good luck trying to put a septic, a replacement septic system, and a well on the same parcel. It's very difficult. And so then let's say go to a bigger lot, 3 acres. As Barry Henson mentioned, who is going to mow that grass, keep the bugs down, and deal with all the problems on a larger parcel? As a person gets, when they start out in their young life, they may think, I want 3 acres. Well, when you get to be 60 years old and you're trying to mow it with a little push mower or a rider mower, you may get a little tired. And I just don't think this whole idea is a good idea, and I think we need to maintain and let the city develop in its future and unimpeded. They need to make their development when it occurs. And I'm not saying in any of our lifetimes will this happen that they want to expand their sphere of influence, but sometime everything grows, right? The city will grow eventually. And it will grow out of, and as in my lifetime, they have had several places where they've grown through their sphere of influence. Yuba City has, and they just did one just recently. So that's where I stand on that issue. Thank you.
Through the chair.
Supervisor Ziemeyer.
Okay, so a few months ago, I brought it up to staff. Matter of fact, this is my 3rd time bringing it up. When we had talked about general plan updates and so forth. Now, I remember that meeting very well because I believe I was the only supervisor that actually spoke up and talked about this, because I had asked staff about a few locations in my district that I had constituents reaching out and asking me about. I'm going to talk about these 4, like a location on Highway 20 on Acacia Avenue. There's 3 lots connected, this acreage that's zoned agriculture that's currently being used as industrial-like but agriculture, and they would like to see those zones changed to industrial. And then along Highway 20, I'm sorry, so that was Highway 20, and then on Acacia Avenue, that's where for agriculture and industrial, and on Highway 20, right there by South Butte Road to almost by Botanical Landscaping, they were asking about the rezoning to industrial because there's 4 parcels that are currently being used as industrial. They weren't residential, they were being used as industrial. And then you have property on Fort Nut and Dresser Road that they were asking about changing the zoning from Ag 20 to almost coexist with the current ranchettes, the few that are in there. There's no orchards, no ag, it's all houses, and they'd like to, build a house for their child or so forth. Well, all of that was left off. Never once did I hear mention of taking a mile swath of ag ground and converting it back to residential ranchettes. So I'm curious, I don't know where that came from, but it seems like what I asked to look into got pushed to the side. Matter of fact, I even asked staff to ask the other supervisors to reach out to their constituents in their districts if there was anything that they'd like to see possibly